All right, so like I mentioned, we'll be having a conversation here in studio, and we'd like you to be part of it. Remember that you can interact with me. Hashtag News Center or at Betty M. Kialo is my Twitter handle. Let me introduce my panel of guests, and I'll start from my extreme right. We have Gabriel Muthuma. He is a political analyst. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Betty, for having me.
All right, we also have Opio Ndai, who is the Member of Parliament for Gunja. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
And right next to me, Rungu Kangate, who is a Kiharu Member of Parliament. Thank you for your time. All right, so we're looking at the 4 years of the Jubilee government. But before then, I'd like us to talk about our top story, which remains to be ODM releasing the report on the chaos. I'd like to start with you, Mr. Opio. These are senior ranking officials of the party. Are we likely really to see anything put up against them?
Betty, it's important firstly to understand that in addition to being MP for Ugunja, I also serve as Secretary for Political Affairs in ODM. And I want to assure you, Betty, that ODM has got zero tolerance to violence, just like it has zero tolerance to corruption. And what is happening is simply due process. The party's constitution is very clear on matters that touch on discipline. And finding or engaging in violence is a matter that directly concerns discipline of party members.
Right.
And the committee, the disciplinary committee, will be pronouncing itself shortly on these matters that affect a number of people who are members of the party.
And the people who are affected, some of them are people who are going to be part of the primaries in about 48 hours. Are we likely to see, a scuttle in this process?
You know, the disciplinary committee is an organ of the party, it's a standing committee of the party, which is established under the constitution of the party, and it reports to the party's national executive committee. The disciplinary committee will essentially just give recommendations, which will be looked upon, looked at by the relevant organs of the party, and if adopted, then their recommendations will carry the day.
All right.
Yeah, and these recommendations have got no limit. They can include suspension of members. It can also include disqualification of members who are vying for various political seats in the party and elsewhere.
All right, Irungu, let me come to you. What is your take about the measures that ODM has taken to sort of like deal with the issues that have been surrounding the party for, let's say, about 2 weeks with the incidents in Migori and other parts of the country?
Nothing. I don't expect anything that has any cogency to come out of the deliberations of that committee. Either each and every politician is going to be acquitted, or those that are going to be punished, it will be out of a certain ulterior agenda to ensure those people that the party wants to take tickets, they do take tickets. I say that because, number one, why is it that several incidents which relate to members of ODM previously, where they have engaged in violence, they have never been punished? A good example is, you recall the botched ODM elections at Kasarani. There was a lot of chaos. No one was disciplined by the party. You recall the ejection of Magerel. He was violently ejected from the party headquarters. No one was punished for that. But also, most importantly, he may be referring to a court case.
I may need to remind my colleague that about the forceful ejection of Magerel Langat from the Orange House, there was a disciplinary process which was undertaken, and people were fined, those who were found culpable. In addition, of course, to the court process, which later on collapsed on its own. But even on the matter of the botched elections at Kasarani, we undertook a process that actually established the root cause of the problem. And people were sanctioned, including Margaret Langat, who was then the executive director.
Well, I am not aware of those internal. Well, of course, it was not publicized. But, well, it was not publicized, and I doubt as to whether what he is saying is correct. But even assuming it is correct.
He's a member of the party.
Well,
I'm an authority in the party.
He's an authority, actually, in the party.
Well, of course, I would imagine he may want to give a different picture from the one which Kenyans know ODM is associated with. But even most importantly, even without even considering those specific incidents, let us look at systematic and policy-driven actions of indiscipline by the part of the ODM members. For instance, my colleague here, if you can recall how he acted during a presidential address, and in fact, most likely is going to get a reward because of that action. We all know. Yes, most likely either direct nomination certificate or even the very people are going to oppose him. But a best example of how ODM has been rewarding in discipline is the case of Gladys Wanga. If you can recall, she has been given direct nomination
before he jumps. Well, please explain what he means by my action in Parliament. Because I can't understand him really.
No,
what am I supposed to have done that could have warranted action against me?
Hey, I would imagine.
I simply protested against an illegal address by the president. Yeah.
But yes, you see,
illegal and deceptive.
Your protest was in violation of the standing orders of the National Assembly. Look, Gladys Wanga protested in a manner that was quite unfair on the part of Joyce Laboso. She has been rewarded by being given direct nomination of a certificate.
Okay, let me bring in Gabriel. Gabriel, what is your take about the situation that ODM is in right now?
I think, Betty, for starters, I think I should have started in the middle.
But yes, I think you should have started in the middle.
Anyway, let's talk about two things that people may play down, but they are equally as important. When you talk about chaos and violence, those two words, even though they have a weaker meaning to mean disruption, or another weaker meaning to mean disorganization, they are really different. And scholars will tell you, chaos is rearrangement, is you can disrupt orderliness. Violence is when mayhem, serious mayhem is caused, death occurs, all right? Serious destruction could be of self or property. That is violence. That's why even if you go to a court of law, you'll hear them, or somebody is being put across the jury, you'll hear them talking about murder with violence. You've never heard somebody being taken for murder with chaos. So two things.
Where are you heading
two things. I want to bring a point. You saw what you saw in Moranga, for instance, and I'm giving you that was chaos. Nobody died. You saw what you saw in Waraka, 2 deaths reported. That's violence. You saw what you saw an MCA the other day, Kuruma, Owera, murder, charged with murder for killing somebody. You saw what you saw in Migori, guns. You saw Joho's driver was shot. You saw his car was riddled in bullets. That's violence. I am not condoning either. But what I'm saying is this. Those 2 words should be taken out of the platform, not to mean when somebody says there's chaos. That is that's a very weak thing of nuancing. But when you talk about violence, it is where we are heading as a nation, where we are starting to precipitate death. So that's why when somebody comes to the microphone and talks about violence, remove chaos from it. When you're talking about Kasarani was chaos, all right? That can be understood if not condoned. But when we start addressing taglines in our meetings and coming to sit on serious political party meetings and discussing violence, it should be handled with a lot of weight.
Isn't that what ODM is doing right now?
I don't want to just see people sitting down and then somebody goes back to his supporters and say, we are cleared. I don't want to see that. I want something coming out and say, he is not allowed to run for any elective office in this country. And that should be, again, propelled to IEBC so that those people are never, gazetted for any political or elective seat. I think that's what we would want to see. Let us hold the name and let us hold the word violence and the actions thereof, all right, with a very serious.
But you see, Betty, firstly, of course, we should not preempt what the ODM disciplinary committee is going to pronounce.
That's why we should wait.
But more importantly, Betty, you must realize that out of the chaotic situations that have been highlighted in Moranga and elsewhere, you will note that no action has been taken by the Jubilee Party. Not even summoning those who are involved.
Ndadi was called in.
No, I haven't been told, really. We don't know. We can only speculate. But ODM is doing these things in open. It's clearly leading the way as the leading party in the region here.
Either Mheshimiwa, what I'm saying, both should not be condoned on equal measure. But when it precipitates on violence, I think we need to take matters more serious.
And that's
because
why
that is where it is
that report, right?
Yeah. You see, when you look at 2007, 2008, It's the words that were being spoken which turned into violent actions. And I think that is what needs to curtail down.
Okay.
And I congratulate ODM for what they are doing. But more than that, more than having a meeting, what we would like to see is, you know, when deaths have been reported, and you still have somebody who has been castigating people to move and do such vices, they have no say. They have no say or moral authority to be running for any elective seat in this country.
All right.
Can I clarify one point?
1 second. Yeah, okay, you can, and then we take a break.
That the party of Jubilee did summon the governors for Murang'a and Kirinyaga, and also their political adversary to the Jubilee headquarters.
Was it secretly?
No, it was in the open.
Must have been a secret thing.
It was reported in the media.
Really?
Yes, it was. In fact, there are clips showing some of these governors attending disciplinary processes there.
Okay, we'll take a break right now. We'll take a break as we try and qualify what Irungu has just said. But we'll be coming back shortly to continue the conversation. Remember, we're talking about quite a number of issues, and when we come back, we'll also be analyzing and taking stock of the 4 years of Jubilee. Yesterday, the president said we're not yet there, but at least we're heading somewhere. So we'll be hearing what my panel of guests have to say about that. We'll be coming back shortly. Don't go away.